You guys got to get a load of this. I took notes because there's a lot of meat in this, but we have to remember that we have heroes in this country and we got to keep talking about them and elevating them. In this case, it's 3 fired FBI agents who are suing the FBI, each of them individually. They claim that they were fired for not showing loyalty to Donald Trump and as part of the Trump administration's campaign of retribution against certain FBI officials. You know which ones they were going after. They described the Trump officials in both the FBI and the DOJ as partisan and inept, saying that these officials were struggling every day to please Trump's White House and willing to dismiss anyone who questioned what was going on. They claim that the little weasel, Kash Patel, promised during the nomination hearings, we all heard them, to protect FBI agents against political motives. But then he walked right into his new office and essentially began firing a whole bunch of FBI agents, including the 3 that filed the lawsuit. These were 3 agents who were the most lauded and most experienced operational leaders, each of them with expertise in preventing terrorism and reducing violent crime. The first plaintiff is Brian Driscoll, who won awards for bravery and valor and led hostage rescue teams. Second one is Steve Jensen, who managed some 2,000 employees in the FBI working on national security and violent crime. And then there's Spencer Evans, who oversaw high-profile investigations, including the Tesla Cybertruck bombing. All right? And they say their firings violated their Fifth Amendment right to due process and their First Amendment right to free speech. Now, according to Driscoll, he said the problems actually started before the inauguration. He got a call from a young, controversial member of the White House before the inauguration. I'm trying to think of who that could be. Did Elon have his little kids in there beforehand making phone calls? Maybe he did. And this young person asked this loaded question: when did you start supporting Donald Trump? It's like, how many times did you hit your wife? Then he asked him about his voting record and solicited his thoughts on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Driscoll refused to respond because it's FBI policy to always not share personal political views on the job. So on that basis, he refused. He was then pulled aside by a White House official after the inauguration. And this person told him essentially that he was facing pressure from Stephen Miller to identify and fire a bunch of people. This was all occurring at the same time that Trump's White House was terminating DOJ prosecutors who prosecuted the January 6 rioters. He was then pulled aside again by the same individual and told to provide a list of every FBI agent that investigated the January 6 criminals. He refused to provide the list, saying it violated national security and violated federal civil service laws and rules. Little tidbit: FBI agents created memes during this time with Driscoll in a Batman suit because he was so popular within the FBI ranks for standing up to the Trump administration, and that fucking pissed off the Trump administration, especially Weasel Steve Miller. The groundswell of support for Driscoll pissed so many people off. And by the way, this White House staffer who kept pulling Driscoll aside has since been promoted to a lifetime tenured federal judge post at the Court of Appeals in Pennsylvania. So we know how he's going to vote on anything right-wing angle every single time. Eventually, under pressure, Driscoll produced a list of 6,000 people, but not by their names, by their ID numbers. in an effort to try to protect the workers from retribution by the Trump administration. In Jensen's case, FBI agent Jensen, Patel directly pressured him to divulge the name of an FBI agent who worked on several politically sensitive cases. I can only imagine what those were. Jensen begged Patel not to publicly name the agent for fear of being subject to online abuse or threats, and because his wife, who had stage 4 cancer, was currently in the process of dying and only had days to live. At the end of the meeting, Little Weasel Patel handed Jensen a fancy piece of shit clown coin that had director at the top of it, and then it had Kash Patel's name on it, but instead of an S in his name Kash, it had a fucking $sign. Oh my God. The administration had been giving out these junk coins to anybody showing loyalty to Trump who worked for in the White House or for the government. But this coin stood out because it was bigger and heavier than most of them. Not long after, Jensen and the agent whose wife was dying were fired. I don't have information on the third FBI agent and what's in his lawsuit. We'll have to find that out. They're heroes. They really are.